549-2937. Sean in Riverside. Hi, Sean. Good morning.
Hi there. I'm just going to ask the question that I've been asking for the last 10 years to the air as I watch television, to my neighbors, to my family. I'm a lifelong resident of Jacksonville, and I watch the news, and I consistently say, what in the world is going on in Jacksonville? It's a scary place to live, and I don't see the people or the systems in place any longer that gives me hope that it's going to turn around. And I'd like for Attorney Shorstein to please comment on that. I respect his opinion, and I watched him for years handle a lot of sticky situations.
Okay, Sean, thanks.
I think you raise a critically important question, and I'm surely not going to bash the media while I'm sitting here in front of the reporter, but unfortunately, the media is to some degree responsible because they, particularly the print media, are experiencing tremendous budget problems. So there is much less investigative reporting than there had been in the decades in the past. As a result, politicians are often allowed to say whatever they want to say. Let me give you an example. I know there's been the debate about the Duval County Jail and its population, and it's a very critical debate because the city has an opportunity to affect tremendous savings that the city, of course, needs.
You think they need to revisit the way we structure the jail?
Well, the perfect example is, and I think Dr. Hallett pointed it out very clearly.
Mick Hallett, the criminologist at UNF.
Yes, who, incidentally, he and Dr. Panzer, his associate, seem to have issued an extremely credible and well-documented report. To explain it very, very simply, there has been a reduction in crime in the United States in the last 5 years that's unprecedented. New York and other cities have the lowest crime rate in the history of their city. We have had reductions that are not quite as good as the other large cities, but still very, very good. So if you just understand that in the last 4 or 5 years, our crime reduction has been, let's just say 20 to 25%. The number of arrests, which are reported by the sheriff, are down a little bit more, I think from 54,000 to 37,000. At the same time, our jail population has close to doubled. So the knee-jerk reaction is, well, that's because we're so tough and we're putting all these people in jail. Let me just give you an example. Hillsborough County, which is a somewhat similar county that I always use to compare, they have had the same reductions in crime, the same reductions in arrests, but tremendous reductions in their jail population. Palm Beach County's jail population has dropped in half.
So what makes us different?
Because we're putting people in jail who shouldn't be in jail. I could give you example after example where people are arrested, not charged for a long period of time, like 30, 40, or 50 days. And then what will happen is the prosecutor will come to you and say, well, if you plead guilty today, we'll let them out and let them go. You almost have to do that because the alternative is to stay in jail for 6 months before you have a trial. And I wouldn't blame the judges for this because I know Ms. Corey said, well, the judges can reduce the bond, let them out. But the judges really don't know that much about the case until there's a trial. They have to rely on what the police and the state attorneys say. The other reason is we just have people in jail who shouldn't be in jail. By putting all these juveniles, just throwing them in jail and then throwing them in prison will increase crime, not reduce crime.
And lots of calls for former State Attorney Harry Shorstein. Steve in Jacksonville. Steve, thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Harry, make a lot of sense. I really don't follow the state attorneys. I didn't even know of Angela until yesterday, but I'm getting a little bit more into this now. The only issue that I have with the program you were talking about, the rehabilitation of the juveniles, is the fact that we're putting the horse behind the cart once again because it all starts with education. Our education system is at an all-time low, and that's part of why we've got crime. So we're spending all this money, or protecting to spend money in rehab, and we're still not putting money into education to actually put the horse back in front of the cart.
Steve, thanks for calling.
Steve, I agree 100% with what you said. Let me give you 2 examples. California took money from education to build prisons. And I remember when they did, I said this, and I was very sarcastic, that if you're going to take money from education to build prisons, take all the money from education because you're going to need that many prisons. The hallmark of our juvenile justice program was education. Our school that was in the jail for those who we thought needed to be incarcerated was publicized nation and worldwide, and it was a Duval County school. It wasn't an ad hoc school. It was done so that the children doing their rehabilitation would be in a Duval County jail. When they got out, they would be on probation, and we would then see the transition to the traditional jail. So you're absolutely right that education, if we had a couple hours, I'd go to truancy, which I think could arguably be the most important crime in the country. But you are 100% right about the relationship between poor education and crime.
Gail in St. Augustine. Hi, Gail. Thanks for holding. Go ahead, Gail.
Yes. I just want to say I think that Angela Corey is doing a very good job in a very difficult position, and I think it's a reflection of what high esteem she is held in, that she was selected to be the state attorney to look into this Trayvon Martin case. I completely think that Mr. Shorstein's comments here are voicing an old grudge, and it's quite disappointing to hear him, trying to malign Miss Corey, who I think is doing a very good job.
Gail, thanks for calling.
Well, a lot of questions have been asked why she was appointed. If my recollection is correct, she was the only one of the 20 state attorneys who supported Scott. I'm pretty sure that's correct. And I think that I can't speak for the governor, but I think he considered this to be something that would deflect the attention away from Cristian Fernandez case.
You think that's why he appointed her to this case?
I think most people believe that the Cristian Fernandez case has been handled atrociously. I can't tell you why Governor Scott did it. I was somewhat surprised because there are some very, very experienced state attorneys. Generally, they appoint somebody very close, as we are to Sanford. One of the logical state attorneys would be Bill Cervone, who's been the president of the State Attorneys Association, the state attorney in the 8th Circuit in Gainesville, who has an outstanding reputation and a long-serving state attorney. And there are a number of others who I think fit that same description.
What about the caller's comment that she was appointed, in her view, simply because she's seen as a tough prosecutor?
Well, I think if there was one criticism of Ms. Corey, and I think it's illustrated in the Cristian Fernandez case, it's a question of judgment. And I don't know whether that really fits appropriately to the Trayvon Martin case. But I really don't want to talk about that case because I think it's inappropriate to discuss it while the decision-making process is ongoing.
And lots of calls and a range of opinions this morning on First Coast Connect as we speak to former state attorney Harry Shorstein. Chuck at the Beaches. Chuck, thanks for holding. Go ahead, Chuck.
Hello, Mr. Shorstein. I want to take both you and Ms. Corey to task. I want to take Ms. Corey to task for the Christian Anderson case, and I saw her the other night on the Nancy Grace show. She's seeking publicity on the Nancy Grace show. She could just make press releases. And I would like for you to explain your role in the Brenton Butler case.
That's a good question, and it's a very fair question. We erred in the Brendan Butler case. I don't want to.
And that was a teen charged with murder, later found to be innocent.
He was found not guilty, and it turned out that was a correct verdict. And of course, I had a very senior assistant, well-educated, a Duke Law School graduate who tried the case. The father of the husband, who saw the incident, made a positive identification. He was a former school principal who had interacted with African-American children, and he was wrong. And fortunately, the system worked, and it turned out that Brendan Butler was not guilty, and the verdict was appropriate.
And let's go to Bill on the south side. Hi, Bill. Go ahead, Bill.
Good morning. Thank you. My question is to do with the amount of money that's spent in the state attorney's office. It seems like, especially in Angela Corey's case, she is spending a ton of money on cases that are just useless. She may not get convictions, and or she may spend a lot of money for a conviction that's going to be overturned. And it's just, they don't have to atone for the amount of money that they spend on these. They rule with an iron hammer with the judge with these plea agreements. A lot of people, like you mentioned before, get jail sentences, and all it does is cost the state a bunch of money, and we don't really get any kind of true crime reduction out of that.
Well, not only have we not had crime reduction, the latest figures from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, their Uniform Crime Report, are the figures of the first 6 months of last year. We are the only large county that had an increase in violent crime.
Let me ask you about that. UNF conducted a study recently disputing the notion that we're no longer the murder capital of the state, saying that their methodology, their analysis of FDLE numbers found that, in effect, we're still tied with Miami-Dade and that we've seen an increase in the number of violent crimes involving handguns. So that flies in the face of what we hear consistently from law enforcement in this community, which is that crime rates are at historic lows. So it's confusing to the public to hear these two different narratives.
It really wouldn't be difficult to analyze the Uniform Crime Report from FDLE. It's online. It's actually put out there very easily. What a lot of people don't understand is that up until 2004, we weren't even close to being the crime capital of Florida. I know I became state attorney in 91. Up until 2004, we were well behind Dade County, Hillsborough County, and Orange County, and other large counties in the total crime index. Only since 2004 have we become the crime capital of Florida. I know the sheriff said something about Escambia County is now the murder capital. I looked at a figure, and it's got to be either a misprint or an aberration or an anomaly or whatever. Escambia County is a very low crime area. It's a military area. Their crime stats don't compare to ours. So I think there's been a lot of misrepresentation of the crime stats. But what I think is critical, because it relates to both the jail issue and the issue that's so important, that is crime reduction, and that is with our jail exploding. Judge Moran was critical of it several years ago when I think it was 2,000. Now, the last report at the end of last year was up to 4,000. While we're going
inmates
up,
in the jail.
Inmates in the jail. While our population is going up, costing the city a fortune, all these other counties are reducing their population significantly and doing a better job on crime. So the argument that one affects the other is wrong. If anything, it's counter.